sure if it's streaming to Facebook as well, but I don't think it is. But anyways, I think
It
we should
says the
get
BME Life Facebook page at the top.
Yeah, it does, but I don't think it was going to be one of the destinations. But anyway, if it is, okay, I think people are getting notified that the live is going on. So I'll go ahead and give us an intro here and then also try to multitask and share it on Instagram. But Mary, how's my volume?
Wait, we're live already?
Yeah, we're live, we're live, we're live.
Okay. You're good.
All right, cool. So, hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to the BME Live. We're here with Mary Martinez, and my name is Adrian. Today, we're going to be asking her some questions that we got from Instagram, as well as some YouTube comments that we haven't had the time to reply to. So, if you're watching live, that is super awesome. We are super happy that you're here. Feel free to leave a chat in the chat box. Just let us know where you're watching from. And if you've got any questions for Mary, please ask them right now. If you've got any questions about biomedical engineering, the BME life, anything, let us know because we're here to answer all of that stuff. And yeah, so Mary, how have you been?
Good. Pretty busy. A lot of things have been going on in my life right now. Some good, some bad, but overall, can't complain. Life is good. Um, well, kind of recently started a new job. I'm not sure I ever made an official update in the channel, but yes, in February, I started a new job as an associate regulatory affairs consultant, working 100% from home. And the company's name is Medical Device Academy, in case you guys want to check it out, because it's a super cool company. They have a great team of regulatory consultants. So if you're a medical device startup company thinking of putting a medical device in the market, let me know. I know the right people to help you out. So anyway, it's been great working in this new job. I've really enjoyed working from home, which I've never really done before. But I really enjoyed it, and I really look forward to working from home probably for the rest of my life. So yeah, apart from that, to work from home, you kind of need a home. So well, for those of you guys that don't know, Adrian is a real estate agent. So he helped me buy my first home, which is where I'm sitting right now, and it's been a crazy process. I think he's been helping me find a home for like a year or so, but before it used to be a very passive searching. I wasn't even graduated from school yet, but once I was, and once I had my full-time job in hands, yeah, I had everything I needed. So I took the step and bought the house, and I've really enjoyed it. It's a really nice neighborhood. So yeah, that's been exciting.
So obviously Mary has had a lot of life going on, and but it's really cool that she got to buy her first home, and believe it or not, she got to buy her first home having been graduated for only like not even a year, right?
Yeah, technically I could have bought it right away. But at the time that I graduated, I did not have a full-time job. I was only working part-time. So I did have to wait to be working full-time. But I do want to mention that it is possible to get a job, house right after graduating, because they do count your education as work history if you have a job that's related to what you studied, your degree. So anyway, Adrian and I have talked about doing a video on dedicated on how to get a house uh, right after graduation. So if that's something that you guys would be interested in learning about, we have a good expert right here. So yeah, we definitely love to go in detail about how you could buy your first home because it's not impossible. I feel like a lot of people, especially if you're young, you feel like it's not really something you could do, but it's certainly something you could do, and it's a great option. So yeah,
Yeah, and so honestly, just to give an example, Mary graduated from her biomedical engineering degree in May of 2020. She's a 2020 graduate, and as soon as she started working full time in January,
February.
which February, which was just about 6 months later,
Yeah, no,
she
I was just gonna say, I guess I had an offer, like a full-time offer, by January. So yes, we put an offer in the house on January 31st. I think that's maybe what you thought. I already had a full-time. So even with the only the full-time offer, they were able to pre-approve me for a house. I just turned in like the final documents afterwards. But anyway, that's like too technical.
yeah, long story short, she's just graduated, 6 months, has her first full time, about to start her first full time job, and she was already really quiet. Oh, my audio is really quiet. Okay, sorry.
Oh, thanks for letting us know. I hear
Thank
him like
you.
super loud, so I think maybe I just have my computer like
Yeah.
volume too high.
Caden, how does it sound now? I hope it sounds really good, and I hope I don't have to get off camera to fix it.
Yeah, and I hope I wasn't yelling.
If my
But thank you for
audio,
letting us know.
yes, thank you for letting us know. Please let me know if my audio is still
I might be able to listen to you on YouTube. Let's see.
okay. Yeah, I think my audio does sound a little bit better, but I think I'm gonna have to be really close to the microphone. Thank you so much, Caden.
Yes, thank
And
you.
and Caden, thank you so much for that because I thought I was going crazy because Mary was telling me that my audio was too loud this whole
Yeah,
time.
it's totally my fault, but it's because I had the volume like all the way up, and I don't hear myself. So like the way I heard Adrian is equivalent to the volume that I hear myself, like my real voice. So
Yeah.
anyway, thanks for letting us know.
Yeah. So yeah, Mary just graduated, first job, and immediately able to qualify to buy a home with a biomedical engineering salary. With a biomedical engineering salary, able to buy her first home at the age of 23, having just graduated as a biomedical engineer. And I'm repeating the same thing over and over because it just I just want for everybody to realize that, obviously biomedical engineering, you can get a really good job, really good salary, and buy maybe even your dream home. Depending on where you live, the market is different in all the areas across the United States. So, but it's just not impossible. I just want everybody to know. We just want everybody to know that it's not impossible. And we will be talking about it more in the future, and maybe Mary will even give us a house tour, a home video tour. I think that would be nice. um but yeah, so that's really cool, um in my opinion, that she was able to do that. So now we're going to move on to what this is actually about. This is a Q&A. And Kaden, again, thank you. We got a comment from Faye Brown right here. It says, blessings, greeting. I have a question, please. What impact that BME put in with patient care?
That's
Um,
a great question, and she actually put like a follow-up
oh yeah,
comment
let's check
just so
this
you
out
can
real
get
quick.
the full picture. So
I'm
she
a
said,
certified I'm
"Go
a
ahead."
certified nursing assistant pursuing my studying becoming an RN. My dad's an RN, so that's cool. Congrats. I'm interested in double majoring for both registered nurse and biomedical engineering. I'd love to do both. I love both medical and engineering. So that's really cool, because obviously, as a nurse, you're hands on with patients. As an engineer, you're sort of behind the scenes helping patients, right?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like there's definitely space for that interesting mixture of like, okay, would it make sense for me to study nursing and biomedical engineering? Like, what could I see myself doing with that? Um,
Yeah.
I've definitely seen places where I could see where both could work together. For example, a branch of biomedical engineering is actually clinical engineering, where as an engineer, you work at the hospital and you're in charge of like hospital logistics and making sure that all the necessary equipment is in place, that every hospital equipment is properly maintained, and that the people that take care of it are properly trained. Um, I know that some clinical engineers or medical device specialists that work at the hospital can also actually help doctors with some like studies, or yeah, like medical studies. Like for example, I've seen this specifically applied in like cardiology and specifically electrophysiology. So there's definitely areas where a biomedical engineer could act as a nurse, but I feel like the patient contact might be pretty limited for engineers. I'm honestly not too sure because I'm not a clinical engineer and I still haven't met a clinical engineer. So I think that would be someone really interesting. It would be really interesting to talk to someone in clinical engineering. I also know that nurses sometimes work with medical device companies because they bring up a really good point of view when it comes to, for example, when you create a device, you have to do these like usability studies where you just make sure that the user that the device is intended for is able to use the device as it is intended. So that nurses can play an important role if the device is intended to be used by a nurse, which I'm sure nurses use a lot of devices as well. Um, so there's definitely, areas where they could overlap. Overall, I do think, however, that they're pretty different. In nursing, you're taking care of patients directly. As an engineer, you're really not. You're on the side of the technology, but you do take into consideration, how are these things affecting people? Like you do design devices that will be safe. You do create risk management procedures to make sure that you um, take into account like all the risks involved and how you're gonna not mitigate them, but reduce the possible risks. So anyway,
And
that's
you're
kind of
talking about and you're talking about an engineering like device, right?
yeah, I'm talking about like
Yeah.
actually designing a device. And when I say
Yeah.
device, a medical device can range from a gauze and a band-aid to a pacemaker. So a device can be a syringe, a catheter, or it could be an AI software. So yeah, there's a wide variety of medical devices.
Yeah, no, and that's interesting because you're talking about risks, that you're mitigating risks whenever you
And
take
risk is
on.
involved in any kind of device,
Yeah.
even a band-aid. But for example, band-aids are considered class one, which are low risk. So, you obviously don't control or regulate a band-aid the same way that you do a software that's supposed to diagnose a disease.
Yeah.
Um,
And
because
so
they're different.
just taking it back to the big picture of the question that Faye asked, that she's interested in both, just how there's risks in engineering and biomedical engineering. there's obviously also risks that you have on an emergency floor or on an operating floor in the hospital as a nurse, right? So I guess it just depends what you like more, but there is like both careers have risks that
Oh,
you
yeah, I
may.
didn't really mean
Yeah,
that kind of risk. I
yeah.
just meant as an engineer, not that you're exposed to risk, but more like part of your job is identifying what the risk could be in the clinical use and then trying to reduce it by how you design your device. So just putting like risk control methods in your device. Not that you would be exposed to risk,
Mhm.
because yeah, risk would technically be anywhere.
Yeah. And also, I just want to say hi to everybody tuning in. Please leave a comment on the live chat. We want to say hi. We want to shout out your name. Mary and I are super glad that you're joining us, and we're here to answer questions. So ask away, but also just say hi and say, hey, what's up, guys? We love you. Because Mary loves seeing those kind of comments. She loves feeling the love, right, Mary?
Yeah.
Um, okay, so we actually have another question, and I'm going to take priority for the questions that we're getting on the live chat, just because they're actually here. So, Kaden, thanks
Mhm.
for helping us out with the audio situation. But now I'm going to go ahead and read your comment. It says, "I'm really interested in neurology and neuroengineering, but I don't want to over specialize in my undergrad. My school offers a BME degree with an electrical engineering emphasis, as well as a computer science emphasis. What should I do, especially if I plan on doing research and getting postgraduate education?"
Well, first of all, I want to say if you really are really interested in neural engineering or neurology specifically, I would not um, like not deviate, but I wouldn't go to BME just because I understand that maybe you don't want to over specialize, but I can tell you that BME is very general. So, I mean, it also depends on your program. Maybe your school puts more of an emphasis in neural engineering and you guys see more things of neural engineering. So that's maybe why you're thinking of switching to BME instead. But I just wanted to say that if you're really passionate about neural engineering and neurology, I would totally encourage you to stay there. However, if you do want to be open to other areas of biomedical engineering, neural engineering, tissue engineering, cellular engineering, bio-nanotechnology, things like that. If you do want to open yourself to other areas of research, I think BME is great and you'll really enjoy it. As far as which emphasis you should choose, um, I think computer science would work better with research than electrical engineering would. Um, that's just my thought right now. Not to say that you couldn't use electrical engineering and do research because really there's research in any area, but I do think that I've seen more of using BME with computer programs, softwares like we were talking about earlier. Like now there's so many medical device softwares. Um, so yeah, like I think that's a good combination to have if you're interested in that. Of course, if you feel like, oh, but I really like electrical engineering, then do that. Like I'm not saying do one or the other, but if you really don't have a preference, I think I have seen more of the computer science used in BME. So yeah.
Yeah, and also if you decide to major in BME, it doesn't mean you can't get a role as as a neuro engineer in the future at a company, right? If you're Because if you're talking about a big company, then they probably will be seeking somebody who has that specific degree and everything. But if you're talking about a startup or a smaller company, you're a biomedical engineer, but let's just say you know a lot about neuroengineering and you volunteered or worked in research labs while you were in college that focused on neuroengineering, then you're going to be a great candidate because your degree says biomedical engineer, but your experience says neuroengineering or all that stuff. And research labs, those are one of the questions that we got on Instagram. What do you recommend for research labs? Research labs are literally going to, I mean, in my opinion, are literally going to make or break the type of experiences that you're exposed to and just the relationships that you build. The first research lab that Mary joined literally opened doors and opportunity for every single thing she did afterwards and where it led her to where she is today. So it really doesn't matter what degree you get as long as what your experience gives you and shows you and who it connects you with. That's how you're ultimately going to land your your dream job and what you want to do. But if you feel like getting a majoring in biomedical engineering is going to be a gamble, and you'd rather do like like a computer science or something like that, it's just up to you. But yeah, right, Mary?
Yeah, I think, one thing that people have, like a negative thing that some people say about BME is how general it can be sometimes, and how you just learn top level things and a little bit of here and there, and not really go in depth into any um, specific area. But I think what Adrian is true, that you can always specialize if you choose to, based off your experience. And without even meaning to do it, honestly, people usually, when you're an undergrad and you're trying to apply for a research lab or an internship opportunity, you get what you can, right? You just get whatever door opens first, and that's completely okay. Like, that's great. And it's like, funny enough, most people, I feel like, end up pursuing what they're exposed to. So, for example, I had like a internship with a startup company, and from there I was like, I really like startups. I want to work in startups. And then through the startup, I was exposed to regulatory affairs, and I was like, oh, I really like regulatory affairs. I'm going to do regulatory affairs. I have a friend who had an internship as a quality engineer. She never, before that, she never said, oh, I really want to be a quality engineer. But because you're given this experience, you start learning about it, and you're like, you know what? I think it's something I want to do. And then it's a path that you end up following. And not that you have to stick with whatever comes first. You can obviously change your mind at any point. But I'm just saying, like, that's usually how it goes. Like, you come across something, you like it, and then you just follow the path. Like, it literally just takes you. So yeah, don't worry too much about it. Like, you will be great.
Yeah. So, Caden, thank you for your question. Thank you for tuning in. And also, Faye just commented again. Thank you truly so very much, guys. Thank you for everything you guys do. So, hey, that's what we're here for. We're here for y'all.
Yes.
That's what this channel is for. We love interacting with you guys, answering your questions. And also, we got to shout out Darryl. Darryl, I hope you haven't left yet. But Darryl says, "Hello, it's been a while,"
Yeah.
and rightfully so, Darryl. It has been a while. Sorry, we've been a little MIA here, but hey, it's nice to see y'all. Um, and we have one more question. And by the way, guys, again, if you're watching, if you're tuning in, please comment. Um, any questions you guys have, even if it's just saying hi, let us know because we want to see y'all. We want to say hi to you. But Faye asks, what are your guys' inspirations in pursuing what you love to do for the rest of your life in profession wise? This is an interesting question. This is a very, very interesting question because it's a very good question. And I'll go ahead and Mary, why don't you go ahead and start with this answer?
That's a really tough question. I feel like growing up, I honestly like my biggest push for just trying to succeed in what I did was always my parents. Like, I always, and like, I don't know, like, growing up, I was a pretty smart kid, and that always made them proud. And I could see that. And so for, the rest of my life, I always just wanted to keep making them proud. Eventually, it came to me realizing that I also just wanted to prove myself that I could do more, that I could reach a milestone, that I could keep going. Um, Honestly, I think it's just kind of like a personal thing. Like, I just feel like I want to be successful in whatever I do, and we each define success in different ways. But I don't know. I'm just always down to try to exceed what I did before, get another job, get another experience, buy a house, things like that. Um,
On that
but
note, pursuing biomedical engineering, because we've heard stories of people who their parents weren't proud the moment that they told them that they wanted to pursue biomedical engineering. You remember that one video you reacted to, Mary?
um, yeah, but I
Yeah.
don't I don't think that's true though. I don't think most parents would think
No, no, no,
BME is
no.
not a good degree. I think
Yeah,
most
no.
parents
I'm
would
saying,
actually think that it is.
yeah, no. So yeah, and I wasn't saying that. I was just saying like it might happen, because there might be, there might just be a lot of resistance in anything. But I just wanted to ask you, Mary, did you get any resistance from your parents when you told them that you wanted to study biomedical engineering?
No, they were actually very happy because originally I wanted to study education. I wanted to be a teacher, and my parents were really against it. Uh, Mostly because I don't want to say too much because I don't want to offend anyone. Um, and I'm not trying to do that, but I'm just gonna say what my
All
parents
right, watch
said,
out,
which
everybody. Mary's about to get canceled. Mary's
no,
about
no,
to get
no.
canceled.
I'm just, what my parents told me at the time was like, you're only choosing education because you're trying to go for the easy route. Like, you just want to do what's easy and you're not even going to get paid that much. So that's what my parents told me. At the time, honestly, yeah, I didn't think education was hard. Not as hard as engineering or medicine. We got to be honest. People start saying, like, oh, well, all degrees are the same level of. No, they're not,
Uh-oh.
okay? There's
Uh-oh.
degrees that are harder, and that's just the truth. Doesn't mean that they're better, but they're definitely, a different kind of intelligence, I would say. Maybe teachers have more like emotional intelligence because they're able to handle kids and relate to them, things like that.
This is about to
But
get really offensive, so
no,
just
I
watch
don't mean
out.
to be offensive
Warning.
because I still
Just
like
kidding.
education. That's what we do in this channel. We try to educate people and things like
Okay,
that. But I'm just
and on
saying,
that point,
what my parents told me when I told them that I wanted to do education, they were like, no. And like they were mad at me about it. So when I told them I wanted to do engineering and specifically biomedical engineering, they were really happy with it because for those of you that don't know, my parents are actually doctors. So they always wanted me and my sisters to be doctors. I didn't want to be a doctor because I just didn't want to do what they said. And I also didn't just see myself studying for so long. Um, so yeah, anyway, they were
so
happy with my decision to study BME.
there's two things to take away from what Mary just said. One is that when she wanted to be a teacher, her parents said no, basically. Her parents weren't down with that. Her parents weren't cool with that. But hey, it's one thing, it's like it's your life, If Mary really wanted to be a teacher, I'm pretty sure she would have just gone for it. But
Yeah.
then she found out about engineering and biomedical engineering to be more specifically. And the most important thing here is Mary, when were you thinking about majoring in teaching, and when did you make up your mind and do the switch to like, no, you know what? I think I want to major in biomedical engineering. At what point in your educational career did that happen? Did that happen in high school, middle school, or college?
Definitely early college. It wasn't something that I decided from one day to the other. When I was in high school, we would take these tests that would tell you what you were supposed to do when you graduated. I always got the same two answers: science and art. It was always the same two, sometimes one before the other. But, I just always thought it was interesting. But at the time, I was like, well, I want to do education. I don't even know why I wanted to do education at the time, honestly. I don't really know what really, like, I had no family member who was a teacher. I don't really have any kids in my family. Like, I just, for some reason, just wanted to do education. And I think mainly I kind of wanted to have my own school. Like, I remember thinking that I really wanted to have my own school someday. Um, so anyway, initially I wanted to do education, but then I thought, well, instead of just studying education, like I can study math to be a teacher. Um, but then, obviously my parents were like not okay with it. And at the same time, I also felt like I wasn't meeting my standards. Like I felt like, and again, this sounds bad, but I felt like I could do more. I felt like I could do more, and that maybe I just didn't want to do more because I was scared. Um, and at the time, I didn't even know what engineering was. I always thought engineering was a guy fixing a car. Like I thought that's what engineering was. My school didn't offer BME. It only offered mechanical, civil, and electrical. So I didn't even know it existed. Um,
And
until
yeah,
what?
no.
Until like I decided to go for engineering just because I liked math, and then I was like, you know what? Like I started talking to people and realized that engineering wasn't a guy fixing a car. It was someone sitting in an office, um, working on solving a problem using math and other, knowledge. So I decided I wanted to give it a try. I also heard that engineering had kind of like a creative side to it. So I really was interested in that. Then, when I started looking into engineering, I realized that there was a kind of engineering called biomedical engineering. And that's when I just knew it. It was like love at first sight. Even just by looking at the like the name of the degree, I was like, that's so cool. I want to do that. Um,
Yeah.
I always say I came into BME blind. I didn't really know what to expect. It just sounded cool. I did it and I went through with it. So yeah.
And I think that's the craziest thing to note here, because you were in your second semester as a freshman when you kind of decided, hey, I think I want to try this BME thing. And you didn't start BME until your first semester as a sophomore, right?
I don't I don't know if I was actually a freshman. I think I was already a sophomore
Oh.
when um when I decided to go into BME.
Oh wait, that's true. Yeah, you
Yeah.
were a sophomore. You were a sophomore. Yeah.
Yeah, I was a sophomore, and probably on my third, like towards the the end of my third semester of college is when I decided to do BME and apply to other schools, and then I
So
transferred to UTSA.
so that's just crazy, because you have Mary here who in her sophomore year decided to start her biomedical engineering major, And it just shows that like you don't have to have it all figured out or all together right now to have a successful career, because that was Mary sophomore year in college discovering that, oh, I want to be a biomedical engineer. And I mean, maybe she could have graduated earlier, but hey, she's 23 years old, working full time as a biomedical engineer, as a regulatory affairs specialist at a
Consultant.
huh
Consultant.
consultant.
I mean, that's the title.
um yeah, in a company, and she's happy. She bought her dream house. She's 23 years old, and she did it all being late to the game in a way, having decided in her sophomore year in college that she wanted to be a biomedical engineer. And look where she's at now. So I just want to, this should just show you that it's not impossible. If you're in high school, middle school, in college as a freshman, thinking about going for it, just do it, because it's not impossible. And if you start late, it's better late than never, right? And also I
Yeah,
just wanted to highlight, oh sorry, what were we gonna say?
I was just gonna say that I literally saw a post like the other day. It was like someone like saying like their testimony. It wasn't related to BME, but just like, like as a person, like choose a degree to follow. And they were like, while I was in college, they were like, I really wanted to switch, but I was already like more than midway of my degree. So everyone told me like just finish it, like you already completed more than half of your degree. Just finish it and do it. And he listened, like the person writing this post listened to that advice. And you know what? For the next 30 plus years, they were miserable doing something that they didn't enjoy doing. So I know at the time where you're in college, you're like, oh my gosh, I already did more than half of my degree. I spent money, I spent time. I should just go finish through with it. But the reality is that college and school is such a short time compared to the rest of your life. So there's no shame in switching majors in the middle of your degree. There's no shame in taking a while to really um, know what you want to do. I mean, it took me like almost 2 years, and I wouldn't have done it any other way. Would I have wanted to maybe find out earlier? Yeah, that would have been great. Like maybe I could have graduated a year early, but I definitely don't regret it. Like I feel like everything happens when it's supposed to happen. Um, but yeah, if you feel like you're late in the game, like you're not. You have a whole life ahead of you. So
Yeah. And also, I just want to take a moment to shout out Chris Bahada, I hope I'm saying that right.
yeah.
Hello from Malta. So,
Hello.
hello. And yeah, again, if you're tuning in, we want to say hi. We want to put your comment up here. Just make sure you have a non embarrassing profile picture, because it will go up and people will see it. But we
Yeah,
want
like
to
my
say hi. What's
sisters.
up? Yeah,
She
like Kelly
commented.
yeah. But so we have a lot of questions about internships. And before we just dive into internships, I said it earlier a little while ago right now. An internship, if you play it right, okay, an internship will literally take you to the place where you end up in your career, the happiest. It all starts with the internship. The internship gives you two things: it gives you experience, and it gives you relationships or connections. So how you manage and what you choose to do with those two things that an internship is going to give you, the experience in what you're researching, or in what you're interning in, and the people that you meet, will literally change your life. In the first research internship that Mary joined, that's where she got to meet the principal investigator of the lab that she was interning in, and that person who was actually a professor became her mentor. That mentor knew somebody who was at a startup, and when they so happened to ask him about, hey, do you know anybody who would be willing to work in a startup? Um, that Mary took that opportunity, And from there, it's just like a domino effect. From that startup, she got she got exposed to something that she hadn't seen in college. After graduating in that startup, she got exposed to the regulatory field, something that is open to biomedical engineers, but not exactly, maybe depending on the university, not very you know like emphasized. But she just got exposed to it in this startup, and it just piqued her curiosity. She started doing more research on what regulatory affairs are, and that led to her finding a company and that she now works for full time. So, you know, the point of the story, it's a domino effect. It all started when she joined the internship at a research lab. And Mary played it perfectly. She she you grew her connections. She valued the relationships that she had with everybody that she met, and that will literally set you up for success. That, and obviously the experience that you're getting. But I would even say that the relationships that you build with your peers and your mentors is literally going to do more than the experience that you get, in my opinion. But let's get Mary's take on that, and I guess we'll start with this question from Joshua. It says, "How does a high school student find an internship for biomedical engineering?"
That's a great question. And I actually, specifically because I got that question on TikTok today, and I actually answered it today. Um, so I did a little bit of research because before I didn't know
TikTok, by the
anything
way.
about, yeah.
What a coincidence that she just mentioned TikTok. Followed the BME Life right there, the BME
Yep.
Life on TikTok. You'll learn a lot. Mary is awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, like this person literally asked the same question, how can you do internships in high school? And honestly, maybe a year ago, I would have told you, like, I don't know, like, you can't do internships while you're in high school. Like, you're too young. Um, but I actually found out first through an event that there's universities like that offer research opportunities during the summer to high school students. So if you're in high school, I would definitely reach out to your local university and see if they have any programs for high school students doing research. I find it really hard for there to be like actual industry experience opportunities for high school students. I think that might be a little bit harder to find, but I think research opportunities I've seen a lot. So, first step, I would definitely recommend reaching out to your local university. Also, just talking to your high school advisors because they probably know about more resources specific to your area than I would. And if they do know of some, they might be able to connect you with the people offering them. So, definitely reach out to your immediate connections. Just because you're in high school doesn't mean you can't network. You can start your connections already. But apart from those two things, I know that NIH, which is the National Institutes of Health, um, does have internship opportunities for high school students, as well as bigger universities like John Hopkins University has a bunch of research programs for high school students in areas in engineering and in biomedical research. So either one of those will definitely be beneficial if you're thinking of going into biomedical engineering. So there's definitely a lot, just look them up. But I think, like anything, you might have better chance of getting an opportunity if you know someone. So definitely first reach out to the local university, your high school advisor, because I think they're just that much closer to you and, um, you know, really have a heart to help you because you're local.
Yeah, and also like there's so many high school students who reach out to the BME Life and are just like there's so many high school students who are doing crazy awesome things in STEM and to promote STEM. And like Mary and I like were like what the heck, these kids are like 17, 16 years old and they're starting nonprofits to spread the word about STEM. And for example, we're going to be posting a video from an interview Mary had with this high school student, right? She was in high school. Her name is
Yeah,
Sean,
Sean from Sign
and
Ninja.
she has a blog called Sign Ninja, and it's like they share an article every week about science. So, and she's in high school. But the reason I'm bringing that up is because you're there all these people, all these high school students are doing something that they love and something that they're interested in, and they're just networking. They're going out there, they're reaching out to Mary. And when somebody like that reaches out to us, it's just impressive because it tells us like one, they are super dedicated and super passionate about STEM. And two, they're not intimidated uh, to reach out to somebody who already graduated college, is like maybe 8 years older than they are, and has a full-time job. Like these high schoolers are not afraid to reach out and ask, hey, can we do an interview, because I'd love to get to know more about the field. Like that's crazy. That takes some guts. And honestly, um it's just like, I mean, I'm not saying you need to open up your own blog and start reaching out to a bunch of college students, but connect with somebody, like Mary said, in your local area. Get on LinkedIn, get a good, picture of yourself and put it as your profile picture. Just look professional, and then just reach out to somebody. Somebody's going to answer. Somebody's going to reply to you, and just ask like, hey, we're in the same town. We're in the same city, and I saw that you graduated as a biomedical engineer. Can I ask you how you did it, how you got started? And they're gonna have no problem telling you, oh yeah, you know what? I had this really awesome professor. You should reach out to him. He might, just reach out to him. He might have an opportunity for you. He might not, but hey, at least you're getting your name out there and you're starting to build relationships with with alumni from your local university. And that's going to be really helpful for you down the road. And I would not take them for granted. And again, it's just how bad do you really want to start already making your way through BME in high school? Honestly, there's not much that you really have to worry about doing. But if you want to get a head start, that'll be great. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think touching on that side project kind of thing, like when we were talking about Sean from Sign Ninja, I found that having a side project, maybe you're not into social media or anything, but I think side projects do speak very highly of you. Like I can tell you that when I reached out to the regulatory affairs consulting company, I barely had any experience in regulatory affairs. But because I had this side project of the BME Life, they saw that I had initiative and that I went above and beyond from what was expected for me to do. And I did this because I was passionate about it. Because it is a consulting job, you also can see how someone interacts with other people, which is a good thing to see. Um, so, side projects never hurt to have. If you can't find an internship experience, then make one for yourself, like whether it's starting your own thing or maybe offering to help other people. I think just whatever you do is better than nothing. But like Adrian said, if you just want to enjoy high school and not worry about it, I think that's completely fine too. Like I barely even took any AP classes in high school because my high school was so small. My graduating class was 24 people. we didn't really have AP courses. So I didn't even know that they existed or their benefit. But once I graduated and came to college, I was like, oh my gosh, all these many people like already have all these classes taken care of, which is good. So if you do have the option to do them, do them. But I'm just letting you know so that you know that you don't have to, you know, have done everything to be able to do biomedical engineering. Like I didn't do any AP classes or internship experiences during my high school years, so and I'm fine. So just don't beat your head too hard on that. But if you
Yeah.
can do it, if you have the time and you want to do it, definitely do it.
Hmm.
It can only help you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just want to shout out Nasra. We'll get to your question in a bit, but she's saying hi and she lives in Turkey. So that's
Hello.
crazy. That's almost all the way around the world or across the world from where we are. Um, so thanks for tuning in. And I want to get to, in order. Darryl has a question here. He says, again, around the same thing. In terms of internships and opportunities, how do you go about finding these opportunities in this pandemic with everything moving online and it being hard to meet people in person? Okay, so um, that's a great point. The pandemic has definitely shifted things, but one thing to remember is that most of the relationships, or yeah, most of relationships, and when you reach out to somebody, it usually is not in person anyways. Nowadays, when you're applying to an internship, even before the pandemic, it's obviously through an email or through an application portal. If you want to get a hold of somebody, it's an email. So, the whole not in person reaching out is pretty normal. So that's kind of like that stayed the same. The only thing that the pandemic has changed, in my opinion, is that it's maybe there's less in-person things that you can do at a company where now your internship is going to be virtual. um but so I mean, Mary, what's your take on this question? Has the pandemic, like, if when you got your first internship and the pandemic was going on, would that have changed your your timeline of how you joined and the experience that you started getting, or even getting accepted? If it was during the pandemic, would that have changed anything?
It's a little hard to tell because honestly, I'm kind of ignorant at, the internship opportunities that there are right now, just because I already graduated from college. So I didn't have to go through this whole experience of trying to find something while online, even though I kind of actually did because the job that I got it completely online. Um,
Let's just touch on that really quick. I just want to summarize that for Mary. Mary was working at an actual, like, she was working at an office with a startup,
mhm.
and she found this company that has a YouTube channel that just randomly happens to have a YouTube channel. And she said, "Oh wow, cool! This company has a YouTube channel, and in that YouTube channel, they post videos." And the employees were talking about how their job is 100% online and remote, and obviously in the field of regulatory affairs. And that just, Mary was like, "Oh wow, they work 100% online and remote. That's cool." And Mary reached out to them, and long story short, she's working for that company now. So Mary works from home 100% of the time, online, remotely. So again, that's just, I just wanted to summarize Mary's situation. She's working remotely and virtually all day. Well,
Yeah.
like 9 to 5.
And I met this person online. So, everything was online. But I can definitely see, I'm in regulatory affairs. If you want to do research or something that's more hands on, you can't do online work. You still have to go to the office, you still have to go to the lab. So how do you find these opportunities? I'm hopeful that most companies, you know, are understanding of the situation and they're trying to do their best in adapting. I mean, they obviously don't want to not hire people anymore. They need employees. They're always going to need employees. So just because of the pandemic, that's not going to stop them from offering these opportunities. They're going to accommodate to the needs of today and try to bring on people. I know a lot of companies had hired interns last summer, and a lot of internships were canceled, unfortunately, but some of them remained. Some of them were transitioned to online, and some companies like Medtronic, um, actually did an effort to keep these interns and have them online. So you can definitely do it. I had a friend that worked at a medical device company, and half of her work was at home. She went to the lab whenever she needed to. And you'll find that working as an engineer, and I would feel confident in saying that it's not BME only, but probably a lot of other engineering roles. Most of your work is not going to be hands on. There's going to be a lot of documentation. And whatever you do, I feel like, yeah, you get to do some fun testing, building, whatever, but at the end of the day, most of your time is going to be spent in documenting things. Um, so yeah, it's hard, but honestly, just make use of what you have. Connect with people on LinkedIn. Reach out to them. Don't just connect. Reach out to people. Tell them who you are. Tell them what you're looking for. Um, and yeah, I think that's a great way to make connections. And the awesome thing about LinkedIn is that it's just a message. It's even easier than having to network in person at an event. LinkedIn, you just send a message. If they reply, great. If they don't, oh well, you don't lose anything. Um, and there's also online events, like I know there's still networking events. There's Makeathons that are virtual where there's still opportunities
which
to network.
which Mary just actually mentored in a Makeathon. If anybody has heard of Makeathons, they're really cool. And Mary actually participated in one in her last year as a BME, and she won second place. And there's a whole documentary on the channel. Just look up the Makeathon story, and that'll just show you everything that Mary went through in the Makeathon. Obviously, it was in person. It was literally right before the pandemic. It was February of 2020. So there's a whole documentary. Mary is in a documentary called The Makeathon Story. It was obviously produced by the BME Life, but
Yeah.
it is a freaking documentary and it is so freaking cool. And watching that video gets me so freaking pumped. I'm serious. Like watching that video gets me so freaking pumped because yeah, I mean it's freaking cool. It's a documentary about biomedical engineers teaming up together, and there was even a mechanical engineer on the team, or two. There were one
Yeah,
or
there
two
were two.
mechanical engineers. Yeah. So engineers just when they team up, they can do great things in the medical world, in the medical device world. And also just well, really quick, Beck says hi. I live in Singapore. That's crazy. That is really really cool. It's I'm pretty sure it's probably something like 3 or 4 in the morning over there. I might be wrong, but yeah, man. Congrats or for staying up and stuff. That's really cool. But also, I just wanted to follow up. Darryl says there are some STEM fields where I feel like you can't do it virtually. And again, that's just what Mary was saying. And we're not going after anybody when we say this, but like obviously the pandemic affected the entire world. It's a pandemic because it affected the world. Everywhere around the world, there were people who probably got laid off, who were, fired, who had to quit because they got sick, their family members got sick. Like it just changed everything. It made everything harder. If it was hard already, it made it harder. But it didn't completely cancel out any opportunity or any possibility. And maybe in the beginning, a couple of months back, it was really hard because it was just something new. The world was trying to figure out how to get through this. But now, I feel like everything is getting back to a normal pace, to where things were. So honestly, just go all out in reaching out to people, and trying to make connections. Like, I don't think there would be any reason why you can't get an internship or a part-time job right now, in the BME field. I just don't think that there's a reason that you wouldn't be able to do it. It's just, how many people are you willing to reach out to every day or every week, and how many, just how much do you want it? Really? I mean, I don't know. That's just what I think. Like, how bad do you want it? Mary reached out to somebody, could have not gotten a response, but she got a response, and now she's working in that company. So you reach out to somebody, it's a heads or tails, 50-50 chance they reply, and that's a pretty that they reply or don't reply, and that's a pretty good chance, because 50% that they don't reply and nothing ever happens, 50% that they reply and it changes your life. Like, those are really good odds. Those are really good odds in my opinion. So just reach out to people like crazy. Tell them that the BME Life sent you. Seriously, just do whatever makes you feel comfortable, because obviously it's intimidating reaching out to people, right? And there are people who are good at that. There are people who are maybe extroverted, and there are people who are introverted, and there are people who doing something like that might just send shivers down your spine, right? So, and really quick, if anybody is watching and in the chat, raise your hand or say, comment if you feel like you're a shy person, or if you feel like you're an outgoing person, or if if you feel like you're an extrovert, or if you feel like you're an introvert. Comment in the live chat, because we want to know. And just to tell you from us, if nobody wants to be open about it yet, we'll be open about it first. Mary, what do you think you are? Do you think you're shy or outgoing? Would you consider yourself an introvert or an extrovert?
I think I'm definitely shy. Um,
Oh,
and I
come on.
what?
No, I'm
No,
just kidding.
I'm
I'm just
definitely
kidding.
shy and quiet. It's really hard for me to decide if I'm an introvert or an extrovert because I feel like I do enjoy being with people, but I do need my alone time sometimes. Like if there's too many people, I might get drained. But I think I'd probably lean more towards the
That's
introverted
called
side.
Yeah. So yeah, that's called being introverted. And guys, thank you so much for being open with us on how you feel, who you are. I want to highlight y'all. Realty, introvert. That is awesome. Uh Apparently Alexa feels like a
A
clown.
clown.
I don't know what that means. Or I don't know. Beck identifies as introvert. And we got Nasra, who identifies as an introvert too. And we
Got an
have
extrovert
uh
here.
oh, we got Joshua Castillo. I'm just kidding. Who says he's an extrovert. So, oh,
Ambivert. Never heard of
we got
that.
an ambivert. Man, okay, this is getting wild. This is getting really, really wild. Mary, so the majority of the people so far, and please keep commenting what you feel like, have been saying that they feel like an introvert, the majority. Mary feels like an introvert. I myself feel like an introvert, but I know that I am a little more on the outgoing side, and not as shy side. Whereas to Mary, if she doesn't know somebody, it'll just be that much harder for her to kind of get out of her comfort zone and maybe say hi in in
Mhm.
person. But Mary's an introvert, and her being an introvert didn't stop her from getting an internship at a research lab, and that didn't stop being an introvert didn't stop her from building a relationship. And obviously, when I say building a relationship, I don't mean like, oh, like Mary got coffee for her mentor and like would talk for an hour every day in his office just to build that relationship. And Mary didn't go to their families or sons birthday parties, or go on trips with them to on vacations, like on a boat or an airplane, like nothing crazy. You don't need to gift somebody a horse to build a relationship. Maybe back then you had to do stuff like that. Maybe back then you had to show that you're building a relationship by, I don't know, crazy stuff. But nowadays, all it takes uh to show somebody that you're interested is just that, just showing that you're interested. Every time they ask you, like, hey, do you enjoy working in this lab? You be honest. You can say there's something that I like, there's something I don't like. But that's because when people who are in the field already and you're not, they know more people in the field, right? Let's say that they know more people in the field. And when those people in the field ask them, hey, do you have anybody in mind who would like to work at my company or something like that, you want to be in a good standing with everybody that they would think about you without a doubt. You don't want to be somebody who says, oh, like when somebody thinks about you in that situation, you're like, oh, I know this person, but they don't seem to be really committed to the research that they're doing in my internship. It might be because they don't like it, but they just haven't been open with me. They don't really call me back or reply to my text messages. So I'm not going to recommend that person because I myself don't know where they are at, in regards to anything. So, so you don't want to miss getting recommended because you're not being committed. But anyways, like sorry, I'm saying anyways. Um, you know, it you can be an introvert and still be an awesome BME. And also we're getting a comment here that says Adrian is 100% extrovert. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Mary, what do you think?
I think I would have probably agreed to that in the past, and I think you know that because I know it was an argument that we had before.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think more and more start to understand the definition of being an introvert and an extrovert. And Adrian is social. He can be social. He doesn't want to be social, but he can be. Like he's not afraid. That's Adrian's thing. He's not afraid to speak up. Um, don't think that necessarily makes him an extrovert. Uh, yeah, I think
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Agents is an
And
ambivert, I guess.
so the same goes for Mary, that I think, I think she says she's an introvert, but how does an introvert become the face of a YouTube channel that has almost 8,000 subscribers, and you just get people to like, like you and, want to reach out to you and aren't afraid to do so?
But
I
then
mean, you're
again,
an introvert, but
remember the definition of an introvert. An introvert is just someone who keeps to themselves, right? Like just because I like sharing educational content and helping people doesn't mean that, like that I don't know.
yeah,
It's
so
tough. It's a tough
it's
question.
it's tough to determine that with both of us, literally.
I'm
But
definitely
yeah,
shy, and you're definitely not shy.
yeah.
Whether we're introverts or extroverts, I think that there's always a spectrum for most people.
And yeah, and so and honestly, guys, I can literally tell you, Mary is the shyest person you'll meet. Like literally, Mary seems real cool and all, but guys, when the cameras turn off, like, is like she doesn't even like talking to me, and we're together, and she doesn't like talking to me. That's how shy she is. Like sometimes I
That's
kind of have
true.
to, sometimes I have to burst her bubble, like, "Hey, Mary, like, do you want to go eat?" And she says, like, and so,
That's not true.
Mary gets shy.
That's not true.
So this persona that she portrays, it's really good.
That's not
I'm
true.
kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Mary is shy though. She's not that shy, especially not with me. But so guys, like, don't let don't let anything stop you from reaching out to people. It's probably the worst thing that you could do to yourself.
Yeah.
Just, you know, not not take an opportunity because you were too shy to reach out. And honestly, it'll happen. It's happened to me. There has been opportunities that I've missed because I was too afraid to call somebody on the phone or text somebody, or email somebody, and it's an opportunity missed. And I have to learn to deal with it because I am the one who didn't want to, um, to reach out for whatever reason that was, whether it was I was shy or I was scared or I was intimidated, and I missed the opportunity, and that's my fault. You know, we have
My
another
sister
report.
said, my sister said I'm a cotorro.
Yeah, Cotorro.
That's not
And
true though.
Nada or Nada says that it's related to the energy you feel around the people. Either if your energy gets drained easily from social interactions, then you're an introvert.
See, with
So
me,
yeah,
I think
great
it
point.
depends on the people that I'm with. And I think with Adrian, it's probably the same thing. If you're with people that you like, then you're going to have a good time. But if you're not, then it might be draining.
Yeah,
Or maybe not even not like, just not knowing them um, like closely. So maybe that's an introvert then, because maybe extroverts feel more comfortable around people that they don't know. But anyway, let's jump out of the introvert
yeah,
extrovert.
and I
Uh,
and and I again, I just want to say thank you for everybody who just decided to jump in, to let us know how you feel about yourself. It was really cool to see all your names and faces. So definitely let's keep that going. But
mhm.
speaking of Nada, she asked, "Do you have a chance to apply any of the many different fields of BME courses you took in any of the jobs you applied for? What are the typical tasks you do as a BME in a job?"
Yeah, I think that's the ultimate question for most degrees. I can definitely tell you that, while I was working, I definitely would recall a few of my classes. So when I was working at the startup, um, honestly, I mean, it's like senior design, like senior design, you get exposed to the life cycle of a medical device, the process of coming from the concept of an idea to putting it in the market. So I literally saw senior design um, like in real life. But as far as like any other more technical classes, not really. I mean, most of it you take a little bit of everything. I think overall, and I've said this before, the idea of any engineering degree is to teach you how to solve problems, and it trains your mind to just be able to solve these problems, and it really does train your brain. You're always having these problems, these questions in all your classes, that also they also train you to present, to exercise your communication skills. So at the end of the day, it's not really so technical, the things that you use, but more like what you got out of it, which is more like an abstract kind of knowledge. But I can definitely tell you that there are some technical things that I learned that I did see in my job, like For example, now in regulatory affairs, I had a class called product development where we did see like, oh, class one, two, and three devices, and then like the FDA and like what the different acronyms mean. I remember seeing a 510K and the term predicate device. At the time, I had no idea what it meant, but now I'm seeing it again and it makes total sense. So I can definitely recall some things from my degree, but most of it, you don't really carry with it. As far as what typical task you do, it really depends on the kind of job that you have. And I think I've mentioned this before, but most more likely than not, you will graduate and your title won't be biomedical engineer. Most people don't graduate and have biomedical engineer as their title. It can be a lot of things like research engineer, quality engineer, regulatory affairs, um, I don't know, specialist, consultant, um, project manager. I know that I've seen people with biomedical engineer as their title. If you decide to go into clinical engineering, then you'll be a clinical engineer. If you do a medical device specialty, you're a medical device specialist. Like there's a lot of things you can do, and again, you usually won't have BME in your title. Um, but I can tell you that test that I've personally had in my jobs, just because that's what I can talk about. But so, for example, when I was in the startup, again, it was a new device that we were trying to get market approval for. Um, so you first start with the initial idea, you start prototyping. I came into a point where when I first came into a company, we are putting together like assembly procedures, because you have to have assembly procedures on how someone would assemble your device. Just because when you start large scale manufacturing, you need those work instructions. Um, After that, it was a lot of tweaking the device, making sure that the software worked properly. If there are any like mechanical things that could be improved, you do that. Then we went into verification and validation phase, which was a lot of testing. So writing testing protocols that you
On
would use to test your device and its performance and how it's intended to perform. What were you
on
going to
that
say?
note, yeah, no, on that note, what you're talking about right now, her follow-up to her question was actually that she feels like all the opportunities available for BME that aren't research are more related to quality control, device monitoring, calibration, etc., which is what you were just talking about. Um, so, I mean,
Yeah,
all right.
and I think this is especially true because, in BME, and as you learn a little bit of everything and you learn like the high level things. So things like quality and regulatory are really good for BMEs because you're able to communicate all these different areas of a medical device. Like you can talk to the electrical engineers, the mechanicals, the softwares, um, the doctors if there's one working with you. So in quality and regulatory, it's kind of like overseeing all these different areas, and it's what BMEs are really good at. But
Yeah.
if you want to design, you can definitely do that. But learning SolidWorks is sometimes out of the scope of a BME degree. That doesn't mean you can't be a design engineer. You could, but you have to get that experience somehow, whether it's on your own, whether it's by having an internship experience. So you can definitely do things outside of research, outside of quality, and things like that. But you need the experience because your degree is not really giving you, um, the knowledge through your classes because your classes are more general. So yeah, and that's where a lot of people come in and say bad things about BME. But that's just what a degree is. You can supplement knowledge that you're not getting, skills that you're not getting through internship experiences, through research, through just learning skills on your own. It's not the end of the world if your degree doesn't force you to take a SolidWorks class, you just do it on your own time. So it's really up to what you want to do, but I think you're right. Like, BMEs, I think, and I've heard this before actually from one of my coworkers, like she really believes that BMEs are perfect for quality and regulatory.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I mean, yeah, like, I mean, this comment isn't wrong, but it's because it's like saying, oh, surgeons are only good at operating and surgery. It's like, it's kind of like what, a BME is, this is their bread and butter, right? It's research, or it's
Yeah.
quality control, device monitoring, obviously like medical device monitoring and calibration, testing. Like, it's you're an engineer in the medical device world as a biomedical engineer. I mean, it doesn't have to be medical devices, but a big part of the health industry is pharmaceuticals and medical devices. I'd say that those are like probably the top two. There's a ton of more things, but pharmaceuticals and medical devices, and who pulls the strings, who gets to control what they are, who gets to design them, manufacture them, those are BMEs. And so that's kind of the world that you're getting into when you decide to major in it. It doesn't mean you can't end up anywhere else. It's just that those are kind of like the spots that are tailored to this major, you know? There's many things you can do. Mary is a regulatory consultant. Um, but that's just one of the many things that she was able to find that she could do with her degree. Um, so yeah, I wanted to jump to this next question from Nasra. She says, I live in a country that offers more bioengineering degrees than biomedical engineering. So I am thinking of entering bioengineering, then specializing in biomedical in grad. Is that possible? Yeah. Yeah.
That's definitely possible, and we have a video kind of going over this thing between BME and bioengineering. And what we basically say there is that they are technically different. I mean, they should be. Like, bioengineering is a much broader field that includes things like, I mean, I forgot now, but it includes like, plants in agriculture and natural resources and things like that because it's bioengineering, like all biology, right? Then you get into biomedical engineering, which is specific to medicine, specifically in human medicine most of the time. Yeah, sometimes there's like medical devices for veterinary indications, but most of the time it'll be human. Um, but so they are technically different, technically biomedical is a focus of bioengineering, but the truth is that you can get the same jobs with both, and most universities either offer one degree or the other. I don't think I've found a university that offers both degrees. um, and yeah, it's really, up to what the university decides to do with it, but most of the terms, like most of the time, those two terms are used interchangeably and they mean almost the same thing. So I wouldn't, if you are doing bioengineering, like, and you're like, oh, but I want to do BME, like, it's the same thing technically. Um, but yeah, you could if you feel like the bachelor's in bioengineering didn't expose to you enough to the biomedical focus, and you want to do a master's, I think that would be a great idea. Um, so yeah.
Yeah. And so we are not getting any more questions, so we're going to be closing this live stream in a bit here. But I just want to address the comments that we got on our Instagram, and I mean we've answered these more or less. Arushi Arushi Chala said, "What internships or research did you do in college?" We've been talking about research, but I guess if you want to just really quickly um, talk about what you did in that one research lab that you joined or internship that was a research lab, it's just a quick little summary of what you did.
Yeah, I was in a research lab for a year or so. It was in the tissue engineering lab, and so most of my time there was spent, well, actually, half of my time there I wasn't actually in a wet lab environment. Like I wouldn't wear like a lab coat and I wouldn't be using a pipette or anything. It was more of a computer research. So they gave me some images that they wanted me to analyze of like an extracellular matrix of a cell. And I was basically comparing two types of cells, like one that didn't have a specific protein and the other one did. So my job was to quantify the differences, the physical differences between both extracellular matrices. So one of them, was thicker and the other one was thinner. And the whole purpose behind this project was to study adipose tissue, which is fat tissue. So they found that the absence of this specific protein um, actually helped, I think, decrease the amount of fat tissue. I forgot like the specifics of the project, but it was related to, studying diet, no, studying obesity. So it was very interesting, and I think it was very interesting that it was like an image analysis research. You usually think, oh, well, I was working with cells and chemicals or things like that, but I was actually just using my computer. So going back to, I think, Darren's comment, that was a, a lab research experience that I had pre-COVID that was completely technically computerized, could have been online, but I did go to the lab just to be fair. Um, but anyway, after that, I did start actually cultivating my own cells to jump into a different projects where we were trying to combine different like cells and um, some like factors to try to create vessel networks and a gel, a little well plate. So that was pretty fun. But yeah, that was my research experience. And then after that, I got an internship at a medical device startup, which I've talked a lot about. So yeah.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. So that's like probably the biggest internship and research she had in college, or that just the one that propelled her career. Um, so thank you for that question on Instagram. Estefania also asked any advice about finding a job. Again, we kind of went over that, so I just wanted to acknowledge, like, hey, thanks for asking that on Instagram, and I hope if you're watching, I hope it answered your question. And we have Hope Vasquez who said, "What is your opinion on getting a master's in industrial engineering with a BME bachelor's?" Quick take. What's your opinion?
Um, well, it's kind of hard to answer that question because I'm not really knowledgeable of what an industrial engineering degree entails. Um,
That's fine. Yeah, I mean, you're not. I think you know very few people who are industrial engineers.
yeah, honestly, I
Um,
don't think I really personally know anyone who does that, but I think if I know industrial engineering is like the most businessy kind of engineering. And again, I don't know about industrial engineering or why you're thinking of doing industrial engineering. But if you're wanting it because it gives you that business exposure, I think that's always good. I do want to say that if it's because of the business, there are other degrees like engineering management that are also really good and very similar, I would assume. Um, But if you do want to do business and integrated with engineering, don't be afraid to just do an MBA or like a actual business degree. Like it, a lot of people in many areas of like different careers and industries like end up doing business degrees just because it allows you to have more like executive level positions. So anyway, I don't know if that's why you're doing
Yeah.
industrial engineering,
I
but
mean,
just some thought to that.
yeah, this question definitely we needs a little more explanation for us to really be able to give our opinion or Mary's opinion. But I mean, yeah, like, and also on that note of being a BME bachelor's and getting a master's in business, that's actually something that Mary's actually considering. So it's not a weird thing to do. Um, you can do whatever you want. If you want to get a higher education in anything else that you feel will benefit you, or maybe we don't haven't had anybody on our podcast who's talked about anything like that, but somebody who got a bachelor's in BME and a master's degree in whatever, and you see that it's working for them, and you've connected with them, and they've talked to you about it. Like, I mean, there's no wrong way to do this whole career thing and degree thing. Like, there's no wrong way. I
Yeah.
mean, if you get a master's in industrial engineering and it doesn't work out, I mean, like, sure, it's a couple of $1,000 maybe that you invested in your education, but it's not gonna, oh my gosh, this person got a master's in industrial engineering, we can't hire them. It's never gonna be
And
that.
I think any engineering degree is good at the end of the day. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. But I was actually going to say that I think on LinkedIn I saw this girl that like her bachelor's was in civil engineering and then she mastered in biomedical engineering. So it was just so interesting, to make that like that's so different. So you can definitely do whatever you want. And I'm sure you have a good reasoning for wanting to study industrial engineering. So whatever you want to do, honestly, just do it. A master's degree is always going to be, you know, like looked at as a good thing. So
Yeah. So again, that's just a quick take. We're going through our Instagram questions here. We got two more. If anybody else wants to comment anything, ask anything, feel free to do so, even if it's just say hi, because we're about to end the stream here in a bit. And the reason I laughed a couple of seconds ago is because the next question is from Mary's sister, Alexa. And oh, shoot, my Alexa is about to go off. Alexa, stop. Okay. She asked, "Why do you have blood in your forehead?" That's awkward. Awkward.
okay.
Why?
For
Why?
those of you that don't know, wait,
Oh
let's see
shoot.
here.
Oh my gosh.
I
Mary's about to
have
expose it.
a red birthmark here. You can't really see it, but
Yeah, I
it's
can see it.
huge. It's huge and it's red and it's also 3D. Like you can actually feel it. And
It's
it's called
texturized.
a hemangioma or something like that. It's basically a clutter of blood vessels. That's all it is. And I also have here what they call, I mean, you can barely see it on camera, but it's like a V that's called a stork bite. Wait, is that what it's called? Stork, like the
Yeah,
sirena?
stork. Yeah.
Yes, this is called a stork bite, and it's very common in babies. It's not that weird. It's just like a red mark that's like a bite. And I had it, and it never went away. So yeah, um, Alexa. Um, but
Yeah.
anyway, yeah. Thank you for
So yeah.
asking that question.
Yeah, that's why Mary has blood in her forehead.
Yeah.
Um and the last question that we have on Instagram is what does a BME class look like? What do they ask for? Projects, homework, and you can probably talk about this for a whole hour, but just give us a quick take on that question. What's a BME class like for anybody who hasn't experienced one?
overall, if I could, use max 5 descriptions for all classes, definitely demanding. Every class was demanding. There was no easy class in BME. Some were harder than others, but they were all pretty demanding. Most of them, like you'll get a good mixture of some that are purely theoretical, purely biology, and then you get other classes where you start introducing engineering and you actually have like math problems and things like that. But so, for example, if a mechanical engineer takes like statics and they use like measure the force in the beam, right? Well, in BME, you're like measure the force exerted in the lung, in the walls of the lungs, so things like that. So you try to use the same principles but apply to the human body. Um, and so, yeah, demanding biology, math. I would say that a lot of the classes really emphasized team projects and presentations. We had classes where we would present like once every month or so. So they really exposed us to like just presenting and communication skills and things like that. Towards the end, you start getting more into classes that where they really emphasize medical device design and coming up with ideas, coming up with ways to determine if those ideas are feasible. What are you gonna like research, um, and things like that. So overall, yeah, I think I've actually been asked this question before that we should make a video going over all my classes and just saying a little bit about each of them. I think that would be very beneficial. So that's definitely something that we have to do.
Yep.
But yeah,
Awesome.
that's a little summary.
Cool. All right. Well, I think that concludes our live stream here. It's been fun. It was a ride for sure, and we haven't done one in a while. So thanks everybody for tuning in and watching. And I hope you learned something watching this video. I hope it was beneficial to you. And uh, it's been I guess a pretty intense couple of weeks for us. But we are going to be resuming our uploading of videos and just awesome content on this channel. So it's going to be good. I hope you guys stick around. I hope you guys like it. And yeah, Mary, any last words?
Stay tuned. No, thank you all
The Papa
for
John, stay tuned.
yeah. Thank you all for joining the live. It's always great to try to answer questions because we definitely get messages. Pretty much, I mean, every now and then, and it's always hard to reply because it's just time consuming and things like that. But it's always good to dedicate a time to speak out the answers and have a conversation with you guys. So it's always good to have these lives, and we're really thankful for you joining. There's always, a little bit of anxiety thinking, oh my gosh, what if no one joins? But I'm really happy to see everyone that joined. So thank you, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Yep. All right, y'all. It's been fun. And we are here now to say goodbye and see you soon.
Yes.
Bye.